Honorable Vice Chancellor, friends, today I've been asked to talk about the horrors of the Partition Day. As we all know, that not on that particular day, but since the process and when it became clear that India is going to be partitioned, almost 10 lakh people died and more than 1 crore people were uprooted from their homelands. This tragedy is one of the greatest human tragedies in the world history. So to describe the horrors, I think is not necessary. But to understand the reasons behind it is more important. Most of the historians have based their judgment about partition or about the alternative Akhand Bharat on the basis of this tragedy. And therefore, it has been driven by emotions. I think that this event should not be judged on the basis of the tragedy of partition, but the causes. Was the partition good or bad? How do we decide? Unless we bring into the picture what was the alternative. The alternative was the cabinet mission plan for Akhand Bharat. And I urge all of you to read it, because that Akhand Bharat plan was endorsed by everybody. Some parties willingly, Congress was not so willing, particularly about some clauses. But finally, they said yes. This plan had such clauses that if we had gained independence under that plan, we can envisage our fate by seeing the example of Lebanon. Not in past history, just in the last century. What happened there? When two societies are embraced in a deadly embrace by history, is what happened in Lebanon, and it would have happened in this Akhand Bharat. What we see today is Pakistan and the East Pakistan, that is Bangladesh. And as planned in this Akhand Bharat, there were compulsory groupings. One group was the whole of Punjab, Sindh, Balochistan, and the frontier states. The other group was whole of Bengal and Assam. And these two groups were to be considered as Muslim majority groups. And the erstwhile British India was termed as the Hindu majority India. So this is one aspect. Number two, the biggest issue of British India was the princely states. And there was a permanent veto. It has a long history that Muslim League would have a veto, a say, if we can integrate these princely states or not. Just try to imagine what we could achieve with the Hindu majority Bharat, which we inherit. And then all the other clauses like there will be parity. If you look at the history of Muslim politics since 1885 till 47 or till today also, I will come to that later. The fundamental principle of Muslim politics has been parity, that is equal sharing of power with Hindus. In the central legislature, in the executive, judiciary, in military, equal sharing. Then the communal veto. Because the Central Assembly was bound to be Hindu majority, it should have no power to legislate about Muslim issues without the Muslim consent. Separate electorates. There is a big list. And if you go through that, and the last and most important was the power to these two groups, Muslim majority groups, to cede from India after 10 years. So this was the alternative Akhanda Bharat. The whole Muslim politics strategy was either to gain parity on the basis of two-nation theory in the Akhanda Bharat, or gain Pakistan on the basis of population. Their original desire, if you look at the Aligarh school or the Deobandi school, till 1940, their strategy was to create this parity and claim the whole of India as Greater Pakistan. In 1930, when Muhammad Iqbal talked about Pakistan, Jinnah had ridiculed him. And just after 10 years, we see the demand of Pakistan coming up. So in a way, the Hindus were trapped with the Akhanda Bharat idea. And therefore, if you look at the politics of Congress, and for that matter, other political parties also, they thought the elephant in the room is the Hindu-Muslim unity. And without this Muslim cooperation, Swarajya is impossible, asadhya. That was a firm belief. And accordingly, they tried to build the whole political ideology around the Hindi nationalism, a composite nationalism. Because they sincerely thought that this is the only way we can achieve Akhanda Bharat. And if you look at the brief Hindu-Muslim unity in this period from 1913 to 1923, these two examples itself, I think, will give the answer to if the partition was good or bad. The first attempt was by Lokmanya Tilak, the Lucknow Pact. He thought that if you have to wean away the Muslim mind from the pan-Islamic idea and bring them in the national mainstream, let us pay a price at the cost of Hindus, of course. And therefore, he accepted irrational demands of Jinnah. Jinnah was a representative of the Aligarh school from Sayyid Ahmad to Sir Aga Khan. And you look at all the earlier petitions and laws in 1909, 1919, the communal awards, so on, to accept that if the British are giving, we will give you something more. So these separate electorates were accepted. Can you imagine? Jinnah demanded that he should have 50% more representation in Central Assembly over and above the population. So 1.5%. That was accepted. The communal veto was accepted. Do you think these demands are nationalistic, secular? By accepting these demands, did we lay the foundation of Hindu-Muslim unity? Or were we seeding firmly the two-nation theory? That is what we have to ask. And just 4 years after that, 1916, Lucknow Pact, Gandhiji, he decided to lead the Khilafat movement, a pan-Islamic movement. See the contrast. Tilak wanted to wean away them from the pan-Islamic and root them in the nationalist cause. He failed miserably. But now, the reverse was happening. Gandhiji decided to lead this pan-Islamic movement for Turkey's Khilafat. But it was not for Turkey's Khilafat. The clear-cut aim of the Devbandis, whom Gandhiji embraced, was to again restore the historical hegemony of India's past, particularly during the the Muslim past. And we know the results. Everybody can go and read about it. I thank Gandhiji for one thing, that his decision turned out to be an ishtapatti for the Hindu society. Because when the society saw the real nature of that Khilafat movement, Islamic fundamentalism and its violent expression all over India, few Indians started thinking about something is wrong. This Hindu-Muslim unity of which we are talking, why it's not happening? And Lala Lajpat Rai was the first person to go into this issue. He wrote, I think, 11 articles in Tribune in 1926. And then he started, why this kind of separatism is there? This violence is there. And he thought, let us study Islam. For 1000 years, we have encountered Islam. But you will find nobody in these 1000 years thought about why they are destroying our temples, they are molesting our women, they are converting us forcefully, they are laying religious tax. Particularly you from an economic institute should understand jizya on the person and kharaj on agriculture, which was 50%. It was levied according to Quran, according to Muhammad's life, hadith. So these were the foundational doctrines of the Islamic rules in India. But nobody thought about asking this question, why this is happening? Over and over again. And here is first person who understood it. And Lala Lajpat Rai wrote that I don't see there can be Hindu-Muslim unity. Akhanda Bharat is not the idea we should pursue. Partition is the only way we can go ahead. He envisaged the partition of Pakistan and Bengal so long. You find Dr. Ambedkar in the same decade, 20s, when he wrote about the Motilal Nehru report in Bahishkrut Bharat, that you are giving these concessions upon concessions. But what are you getting back? You will get nothing. This nation remains threatened because of Islam's attitude to nationalism. Islam's attitude about coexistence with non-Muslims. And after this Khilafat, you find many people, Swami Shraddhananda. In fact, post Andaman Savarkar, before Andaman, even Savarkar also believed in Hindi nationalism. You will find him glorifying the jihad of 1857. But he changed. Even Shraddhananda, before Khilafat, he campaigned for Khilafat in the Jama Masjid of Delhi. So few people again, they changed and they thought that we have to build our nationhood on some other principle. Savarkar wrote the important book, Hindutva. Dr. Hedgewar started Sangha. Arya Samaj also started with Hindu Sanghatan, Shuddhi. So, thereby some people understood that this is not feasible and we have to protect our own interest, the Hindu interest. If Muslim League is representing the Muslim interest, and so we should put pressure on Congress that yes, we all want Swaraj, but the Hindu interests should not be sacrificed at the altar of this Hindu-Muslim unity. And all of you know, the first person after the Pakistan resolution was passed in 1940, it was Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, who wrote a book. People conveniently forget about what Babasaheb wrote on Pakistan. And there he gave very important message. I will read out to you. So the important question before the Irish leaders was, to keep Ireland together, what we call Akhanda Bharat, it was the same issue, or to partition Ireland. So what is important? So there he says, national and geographical boundaries scarcely ever coincide. National and geographical boundaries scarcely ever coincide. Geography would make one nation of Spain and Portugal. History has made two of them. Geography did its best to make one nation of Norway and Sweden. History has succeeded in making two of them. Geography has scarcely anything to say to the number of nations upon the North American continent. History has done the whole thing. Geography has worked hard to make one nation out of Ireland. History has worked against it. The island of Ireland or the national unit of Ireland simply do not coincide. In the last analysis, the taste of nationality is the wish of the people. So Ambedkar ji is talking about the historical fact. For us Hindus, this ancient continent was sacred. And therefore they couldn't think about vivisection. They were ready to pay any price to keep it together. And almost we had agreed to this Akhanda Bharat. We should be grateful now to Mr. Jinnah that he went too far, push back. Because till 1940, Hindus had no option. There was no alternative on the table of negotiation. Jinnah created that alternative in the form of Pakistan. So now we could think about which is a lesser evil, and in what way we had our own cherished ideas about how this nation should be. Try to imagine if the partition had not happened. Again, I will tell you, I am not forgetting the tragedy, the loss of human life, and the displacement. To some extent, it could have been averted, like it happened after the First World War when the population was exchanged between Turkey and Greece. In Punjab, it could have been, Madhavrao Godbole has also written about that. But aside from that, once we accepted partition, what was the result? Do you think, imagine a constituent assembly which achieved our Indian constitution? It could be achieved with Bharat remaining Akhanda and Muslim League in the Constituent Assembly. We could take and break the legacy of the British policy which encouraged this two-nation theory. We scrapped the separate electorates, communal voto, many things. And the most important is we could truly unite Bharat by integrating all the princely states. Look at the journey of this Hindu majority Bharat and the Muslim majority Bharat which ceded from us in 47 till now. Why do you find such a difference in performance? Everywhere. Why it is? People have a very popular theory that it was this unity was the legacy of the British government. So we inherit that legacy. Pakistan also inherit. Sri Lanka, Myanmar, most of the African nations, in Middle East also. Why there is this qualitative difference? The true fact is that because we got this opportunity to not remain Siamese twins, where there would have been a dead nation, though we would have been alive. That is what Ambedkar ji said. Because we were separated, we could move forward according to our own vision. That is the big achievement. We have to understand that it is not only the British institutions or the constitutional reforms. It is because of our civilizational contribution which has made a great difference of what we see today in this Hindu majority India and the Muslim majority Pakistan and Bangladesh. That is a big difference. So this civilizational backbone. So we have to think about that whenever we ponder about these important questions. One more important thing I have to add, that why it was very difficult for Hindus and the leaders to understand this separatism this two-nation theory. And as you can go on internet, for 14 days, Jinnah and Gandhiji met. They exchanged notes. The most pertinent question Gandhi asked Jinnah was that you have only changed your mode of worship. Then he says that just by changing mode of worship, can converts claim to nationhood? So he told him, it is public debate, that we are kith and kin. Our ancestors are saved. And the ancient civilization is not the Hindu's heritage, it is yours too. So, this is, I am not telling this, that this is Gandhi's dilemma. This is Hindu mind's dilemma. Till today, our narrative is based on the same thing. Because we are looking at Islam through Hindu eyes. For us, there are so many modes of worship. But it has not created fissures of this kind, where we have to partition the nation. But just pause and wear the hat of Islam. And then you will understand why the whole Muslim politics from 1885 till today, why that separatist attitude is there. The answer to Gandhiji from Islam is that Muhammad established a religion. And the first doctrine is of Ummah. So brotherhood is not based on blood. It is based on faith. Faith in Islam and Muhammad. The other doctrine is the world is divided into Momins and Kafir, believers and non-believers. The third doctrine is cutting the umbilical cord of our own civilization. Muhammad considered, before the advent of Islam, the Arabian civilization is Jahliyat, the era of darkness. And so it has to be destroyed, totally annihilated. And all our ancestors are in hell because they were born before Islam was born. According to Muhammad, his own father, because when he was not yet born, his father had died. People asked him, "Where is your father?" He said, "In hell." His mother died when he was very young. So once he had a desire to pray for her, Allah prohibited. You can't, she's in hell, because she did not recite kalma. So in a religion where your own kith and kin, mother and father, all ancestors, all their deities, all the deities were destroyed in Mecca, in everywhere in Arabia. So, if this is a doctrine, how will they feel that the Kafirs are their kith and kin? Unless we wear the hat of Islam, we cannot understand why that otherness is there, why that hatred is there, why the doctrine of destruction of the Kafirs is there. So it comes from the religion itself. So those ancestors, their civilizational legacy, how can they feel affinity to this ancient civilization? And there lies the answer. Unless we look through that hat, we cannot understand the Muslim politics, not only before 1947, but even after we gained independence. So we have to push forward. We have done away with one fault line, which remained as a legacy of partition. That was full integration of Jammu and Kashmir. The other fault line is, in civic life, there can be no religious laws. When we say this, as far as the Hindus are concerned, their personal laws also have been reformed according to the international norms of human rights. In the namesake, it remains Hindu law. In fact, there is reverse discrimination under this new dispensation and the old appeasement of minorities, which was so disastrous, which led to such a great tragedy. Now it has been converted into minority rights. Which society needs minority rights? Where there is discrimination. The majority society has a full membership of the civic nation and the minorities are discriminated. It is not so in India. So the true principle should be that even though Hindus are a majority, they will have no special privilege or rights. But at the same time, the minorities will not have any rights or privileges which the majority Hindus don't have. So we have to correct this principle in our legislation and policy. And this is not an India-specific problem. The whole world is facing this problem. And so we have to genuinely understand how we go forward. Because it is not just to remember the partition day, talk about the past. We should think about our present, and then we'll find the seeds of the present problem still lingering after partition. I remember that once in the ambassador of Israel asked the Muslim nations, "Where are your Jews?" There were a substantial number of Jews in Iraq and many other places. We have to ask this question in 1925 to Pakistan and Bangladesh. Where are your Hindus, Buddhists, Jains? Unless we do this reality check, we will always use the politically correct language and do the analysis. And we will disastrously fail, like we have failed during this period. And one more important thing, it slipped my mind when I was talking about why there is a stark difference between our journeys. The Hindu majority Bharat's journey and the Muslim majority Bharat's journey. There is one more critical, important factor. Like I said, Khilafat was a Ishtapatti. for Hindus. The British Raj also was, in a way, Ishtapatti, because it ignited the Hindu Renaissance. Unfortunately, in Muslim India, that Renaissance didn't happen. Within that, almost 150, because it started early in Bengal presidency, then later in the Madras presidency, then the Bombay presidency. But there was great churning in Hindu society. I will give a microcosm of this Renaissance. Take our own Pune. Deccan College was started by the British, initiated more than 200 years ago. But look at all other institutions. Take this Servants of India Society, Gokhale Institute, take Deccan Education Society, Bhandarkar Institute, Bharat Itihas Sanshodhan Mandal, Karve Institute. Look at what used to be called as Anath Vidyarthi Guru. Now Pune Vidyarthi Guru. See the range they're dealing with the social issues like untouchability, women's issues, widow issue, child marriage. They're challenging their own doctrines, holy doctrines like Vedas. Ambedkar is a great critic of the religious texts we can understand. But if you read Savarkar, he is more fierce in criticizing. So there is no left, right or something. It's like a Samudra Manthan. And so, this ancient society changed for better. It made itself capable to encounter modernity, to absorb it, and to build a new society. Yes, we are not perfect. It is never so. Every generation has its own challenges to go ahead. And therefore, I think today's day, we look into this history because we want to understand our present challenges. And therefore, we have to look at Islam not as only a mode of worship, but like communism, fascism, a violent political doctrine. Only then we can understand the horrors of partition. Thank you.
A question or two can be taken. If you have any questions, please keep them short, brief and precise. Yes, please.
Bharat, is it okay?
Will it take time? So
Only 3 minutes at most.
we can do it personally after the lecture.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yes. Yes, please.
Sir, I'm Santam Gurjar. I teach geopolitics here. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a viewpoint. I think I heard it in Pune itself that the region that consists present-day India was also the region which was under Maratha regime, and region which was not under Maratha regime for long was not part of India. So I would like to hear your thoughts on that.
Oh. It's a. If you look at the 18th century, a great event happened. It started in 17th century with Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Till then, or more than from 8th century onward, The history is the history of Hindu resistance to Islamic invasion. And so many times people fought, sometimes they secured their own state, like Rana Pratap. Ultimately, except the fort of Chittor, he liberated his state. But nobody was capable of destroying the political power of Islam. And in this 1000 years, it goes to the credit of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj and his successors to liberate almost most of India from the religious persecution. Remember this important word, that the Islamic rule had imposed religious humiliation, persecution on Hindus. So because of Shivaji Maharaj, for the first time, most of the India experienced this. And then people say that in Marathi they say की जिथपर्यंत मराठ्यांच्या घोडी पोचली तो भारत राहिला. The meaning of that is India was partitioned on a simple principle. Hindu majority Bharat and the Muslim majority Bharat ceded from it. So to that extent, the importance of the Maratha century to shape this destiny, that Hindus remained majority because of that respite of the 18th century and destruction of the central Mughal power.
Yes, please.
Dada, I read one book on Islam ची ओळख written by Gajabho. So I didn't think about it ki what is the constructive answer in Islam for Islam. Constructive answer for Islam.
If I get what you want to say is, unless there is some inner change, which I don't see, since 1885 till now, there has been only one person, Hamid Dalwai, who has dared to challenge the Islamic doctrines. A single person. They don't have reformers. And my dear friends, there is no difference between Mullah's Islam and Allah's Islam. Please try to understand this. And so, we have to understand that this is a great challenge. We have to prepare ourselves, build our defense on that basis. But unless Islam erupts from inside and some change happens, because it has not happened anywhere else in the world. So what is our defense? Atmabodh or Shatrubodh?
I know that all of us don't want it to stop, but we have limitation of time. So again, it comes to me to express vote of thanks. So first of all, thank you so much, Pradeep Dada, for being here, enlightening us, and continuing this thread of this historical thread of Hindu Renaissance, of which Pune was the prime and chief seat. So thank you once again for taking time out of your busy schedule. I cannot but thank Vice Chancellor, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Gokhale Institute enough for giving his time, for felicitating our guest speaker and being here out of his busy schedule, and for staying here for the whole of the lecture. Also present in the audience is legendary historian Sri Gajabhau Mendare. And he's quite a rare sight these days, and we feel honored and we feel proud that he took out time and he could be here. So thank you, Gajabhau. We also have his young colleague Kedar Phalke. So that is it was quite an audience, it was quite a lecture. So, and last but not the least, this lecture was organized for sake of you. And since you are here in such good number, thank you all. So now we declare program as closed. Thank you once again.